The content you are about to ingest is for mature audiences only. Human written, voiced by AI. Welcome to Bella Vita, Tales of Sidori Island Part 1. Trigger warnings such as cheating, dubious consent, BDSM, secret society, abduction, female revenge, mild torture, and many other kinks and fetishes may occur throughout the story. If you aren't into weird shit, you reserve the option to press stop at any time. If you like weird shit and wish to continue, sit back, do nothing, and enjoy. Episode 2. Rebuild the population.
Normally after a Saturday night of drinking, 22-year-old Preston James Meadows, PJ for short, sleeps in until the early afternoon. Today was different. He was awakened in the morning by his conservative mother who was preparing for church. She was tired of him coming home late and partying. Because of his antics, she put a 30-day clock on his residency in her home. PJ was raised in the church and his mother doesn't think he reflects as a good example for his 18-year-old sister and 8-year-old brother. PJ has a job as an IT assistant at a media company. His fellow church member and former babysitter Chantel helped him secure the job. PJ's mother is on the way out of the door with his little brother when she alludes to PJ that he needs to go with her to change his life. She adds that if he is not going to go to church he should at least be responsible like his sister Stacy, who is in her room studying.
Chantel Green is a human resource manager at Blackout Media. She was first introduced to the Meadows family as a kid at their church, One Faith Outreach Center, where she still attends every Sunday. She began babysitting PJ when she was 13, and he was 3. She later on went to college and graduated as a business major. She has been with Blackout Media for the past 9 years, where she started as an intern, and is now in charge of the entire HR department. Her overall style is uniquely creative. She understands how to merge sexy with professionalism. Her hair, whether it's in braids or worn natural, always complements the makeup contours that shapes her beautiful pecan skin. Her business attire allows for her skirts to stop right below her knee, and it provides just enough visibility of her flexed calf when she walks in heels. She has had a few relationships between college and the present, but none have gotten too serious due to her connection to her spirituality. Many men have tried and failed to live up to her relationship expectation. She is currently enjoying the single life without any children.
PJ is like any other average 22-year-old male. He goes to work, plays video games, and parties with his friends on the weekend. He feels his current living situation prevents him from committing to one girl because he doesn't want to bring them home to meet his judgmental mother. His financial irresponsibility encourages him to spend money on clothes for the club, in hopes of meeting a girl, and taking her to a hotel to provide a one-night experience. Most of his weekends are spent repeating the same actions. Many girls find his short wavy hair, well-groomed beard and slim-fit build attractive. Haircuts and the gym are part of his sexcapade weekends. It also helps that he knows how to put an outfit together. He understands his reckless spending habits have to change if he is going to be able to find a new place in 30 days. He finishes the rest of his Sunday pondering and playing video games in his room. It's Monday and PJ is getting ready for work. His sister has already left for class. His mother has left and taken his younger brother to school. She had forgotten to turn off the television and PJ notices the news. Normally he tunes it out, but it's reporting on what to do if you are in need of extra cash. It is a new government program to help increase the population. They call it Rebuild the Population.
If you are in need of extra cash. Over the past decade, infertility has been a major issue in the decline of the population. Due to hazardous chemicals in the food and atmosphere, the amount of males and females that are able to reproduce has been increasingly shrinking. They are offering fertile males the ability to make up to $200 in cash each week. All that needs to be done is download the app, set up an appointment and get a sample tested at one of the many facilities. If proven to be fertile, participants can opt in to have their sample donated and is approved to provide a specimen once a week. Scientists have discovered a way to extract the man's DNA who is sterile. Infuse it into the living specimen from the donor and fertilize the egg of the person they are trying to conceive with. Once the donors provide the living specimen, they are relinquished of all burden regarding the fetus and child. The lowering population has forced the government to rely heavily on an artificial workforce to compensate for the lack of human workers. GDP is down 37%. Interest rates are holding at 21%. Men aren't the only ones who can contribute and be compensated. They have incentives for women too. Men providing their specimen can opt to have a woman assist them in the donation process. The $200 will be divided between both participants. Scientists have discovered that men are able to produce more fluid with a woman's visual and/or physical interaction. The government is offering women $50 for watching and another $50 if they physically participate. Women are able to assist up to 2 times a week for visual participation and only once a week if they lend a helping hand. Back to you, Kim.
Coming up next, does edging help your penis ejaculate more sperm? We will be back after these messages.
VJ laughs to himself and calls the government wild as he exits the door for work.
Chantel is a routine individual. She's normally one of the first people in the office. Her day begins with prayers and affirmations. She does alternating weeks between evening heels classes and morning yoga. She practices a skin and body care regimen post-workouts. She usually eats a light breakfast before going to work. Today, when she arrives to the office, she prepares the coffee and sifts through her emails and physical mail. A large packet is on her desk with a return address from the government's RTP program headquarters. RTP stands for Rebuild the Population. It's a division of the FRD, the Fertility and Reproduction Department, which was created during the beginning of the sterility crisis. She opens the packet and sees pamphlets with information pertaining to their RTP program. They are encouraging companies to incite their employees to participate in the program. If an employee brings in proof of participation, the company receives tax benefits. She glances over the literature and asks, "What is this world coming to?" She takes the information to the break room for the employees to review and runs into PJ.
PJ is standing in front of the refrigerator with the door open, looking as if he was trying to find something to eat. Chantel greets him with good morning as he closes the door with a disappointed look on his face. He tells her how he imagined that the company would have provided breakfast since he didn't have time to eat because he would be late. She shakes her head and rebuttals, "It is not the company's job to feed an employee if the employee doesn't manage their time properly." She accuses him of being the culprit of stealing lunches. He exclaims how it was not his fault, it was the news that had his attention. He sees RTP on the pamphlet and identifies that as being the distraction. He says he heard the report on the news which attributed to him missing breakfast. He asks to see a pamphlet. She explains how companies are being urged by the government to provide their employees with the information and expresses her discomfort in the direction the government is moving. She talks about how the pastor's message yesterday was warning the congregation about strange things happening in the end times. PJ, who is skimming over the information, agrees everything is crazy.
Chantel places the pamphlets next to the coffee pot where PJ is standing reading the literature. She asks how his mother and siblings were doing. PJ informs her he has 30 days to find a new place because his mom was kicking him out. With a concerned look on her face and in her voice, Chantel asks, was he thinking about the RTP program to earn money? PJ quickly closes the pamphlet, places it on the stack of others, and says no because he was going to ask HR for a raise. She looks at him questioning how he is asking for a raise when he is in the break room looking for breakfast instead of working. She said the best she could do is give him a 30-day performance evaluation, and depending on the performance, it might be possible. He vocalizes his disappointment, realizing he wasn't going to have the money in time. Her response was her typical sentiment whenever she sees him in the office after he's had a long weekend. She tells him he needs to be in church praying and tithing, not spending his money at the club on women. PJ denies the allegations about the club and women as they both are exiting the break room. They exchange their goodbyes as they head to their separate departments.
PJ enters the IT office and checks the digital assignment board for work orders he is to complete. It's still early in the workday and none have come through yet. He sits down at his workstation and starts to search apartments for rent. According to his calculations, he understands that his current finances would only allot him a 10 feet square slab of sidewalk in front of the office building, and then he would have to see how much he had left over for the rent. He needs about $2,400 to be able to move out and find a place to live. He started doing the math. He will get paid 2 times within the 30 days. After his bills and the 2 checks combined, he will have close to $900. He ponders in deep thought. After about 2 minutes, he sends a text to his sister Stacy and asks to borrow the remaining $1,500. He knows it was gutsy, but by the tone of his mom's voice he was sure she was serious. Waiting on a response, a work order comes through on the board. He gathers his tools and attends to the job.
It's 10 o'clock and it is time for the weekly management team meeting. Every Monday the management teams within the company meet to discuss the weekly projections and to provide company updates regarding policy and future ideas. Being the head of HR obligates Chantel to attend the meetings. The meeting is proceeding as usual. They are discussing expenses and profits for the shareholders. During the financial report, Chantel informs them of the RTP program and the tax benefits that are included with employee participation. She explains the program's incentives for participants. She hands them a pamphlet to look over. After about a minute of looking over the information, the CEO and CFO begin to hold a side conversation. The conference room was silent except for the whispers of the CEO and CFO. Chantel couldn't make out what they were saying, but after about 30 seconds they made their conversation known to everyone in the meeting. The CEO suggests matching the incentive up to $200.
Let's give them $200.
They acknowledge that paying $20,000 between 100 employees was beneficial to the million they will save in taxes. Chantel kindly interrupts and lets the CEO and CFO know that the company can keep her portion of the $200 because she wasn't going to participate. You can keep my $200. The CEO and CFO look at each other and smile. The CFO states that her decision will save the company money, but he's sure there will be willing participants.
There will be willing participants.
She includes that only 51% of the company needs to participate to earn the maximum tax cuts. They instruct Chantel to send out an email and make some creative signage. They stress the importance of employees having proof of participation to receive the bonus, and for the company records to avoid any discrepancies during an audit. The meeting adjourned, she leaves the conference room and goes to her desk.
VJ swaps out a broken PC, updates the software, and now it's lunchtime. He walks to his car to smoke a half of a blunt he had left over from earlier. There is still no response from his sister. Chantel also likes to eat lunch in her car. She's an introvert, so it's her safe place to read and recharge. She's sitting in her car across the other end of the parking lot and notices smoke escaping from the window of PJ's car. She shakes her head and says to herself she is going to pray for that boy. PJ's phone dings and it's his sister Stacy responding saying hell no. PJ sighs with disappointment, but before he can completely exhale his phone dings again with another message from Stacy saying she only had $200 she could spare, and she will gladly give it to him to get out of the house. In the message she accuses him of taking up her bathroom time. He responds with fuck you, thank you and a heart picmoji. Lunch ends and he goes back into the building.
Chantel is back from lunch sitting at her desk trying to figure out how to make enticing signage for the RTP program. She is very creative and artistic. She opens her desk drawer and grabs her sketch pad that is located under her lunchtime reading material, Unethical Ethics by Dr. William C. Strickland. To get an idea of inspiration and a true understanding of the RTP program, she starts reading the informational packet that was included with the pamphlets. She reads the following. There are 2 separate entrances, one for the men and one for the women. The facility operates as a normal reproductive health center. Services include all things involving the reproductive system. Its operational design helps to limit the feeling of embarrassment of program participants. Due to the increasing infertility of the population, reproductive centers are as large as hospitals. Chantel nods her head in agreement that anonymity is important for the program to be successful. She thinks to herself how embarrassed she would be to get caught participating in the program. She continues to read the data. A woman watching can help increase the man's load by 23%. 68% of men with the increased loads produce more life within the specimen, and proven greater success rates in women in need of a specimen. She glosses over more of the facts and stops at the how the process works section. Participants will download the RTP app to register. Once registered, the participant will receive a temporary code with the date and time of appointment. Participants are given an hour grace period. For example, if a participant's time is at 8 a.m., they have until 9 a.m. to arrive. Upon arrival at the facility, the participant will input their temporary code at one of the kiosks. A printout of the reason for visit, assigned room number, and time are located on the ticket. For example, if an RTP participant is being seen, it will show on the ticket as RTP. All individuals being seen at any of the facilities follow the same process. At the allotted time, participants scan their ticket at the door. Directions to their room will be given by LED arrows that light up on the wall directing participants to the preparation room. Both men and women participants are sent to prep rooms to view instructional videos on the process inside the procedure room. Sizes of procedural rooms vary depending on the male participant preferences. If a participant chooses to opt out of the watcher or hands-on program, the participant uses a smaller procedure room. Each procedure room is equipped with a VR headset. Men participants' entire heads are completely covered by the headset. It extends down from the ceiling in the middle of the room. An innovatively designed chair, which sits at a 45-degree angle for maximum comfort, is placed directly under the VR headset. The participants sit in the chair and wear the headset. Inside the headset, participants can create their own atmosphere and ambience, from music and scenery to soundscapes and aromas. Additional features inside of the headsets include an RTP adult streaming service. Participants can create lifelike avatars to communicate with, helping them achieve maximum performance. Avatars have adaptive artificial intelligence, so the encounters feel real. Once logged into the headset, the participant and avatar can pick up right where the experience left off, or they can create an entirely new experience. A feature coming soon to the app will allow participants to create an avatar within the app to use inside of the headset. Procedure rooms are equipped with sensors that measure temperature, heart rate, and dopamine levels. Each client has an hour to complete the process to receive full payment. Special lubricant and a cup for the specimen will be provided on a table connected to the chair. The scientifically engineered lubricant helps maintain life within the specimen due to natural oxidation, which can be harmful to the exposed specimen. Chantel can't stop reading because she is intrigued by the process. She continues on. If the man decides to opt in for the watcher-participator program, he determines if he wants the other participant to watch or to be hands-on. Depending on his decision, a portion of his proceeds up to $100 goes to the woman participant. The women's process is similar. Within the app, the woman decides if she is watching or hands-on. Women go through the same procedures as the men before entering the prep room. The man enters his prep room to undress and watch the 2-minute instructional video. Women remain clothed as they watch the instructional video. The room is divided by an electronic height-adjustable partition connected to the ceiling. After the man sits in the reclined chair and readies himself with the VR headset. He uses controls within the headset to lower the partition from the ceiling. Sensor technology allows the partition to stop so that only the lower half of the participant is exposed, covering his upper torso and face. If the man has tattoos and other identifiable markings, he can choose to cover them to remain anonymous. A green light in the woman's prep room indicates the woman can enter the procedure room. Upon entering the room, she's instructed to wash her hands. From the woman's point of view, only the lower torso of the man is visible. Women are provided with headphones that link to the men participants' headset. Women experience the same ambient atmosphere chosen by the men. Linked headsets enhance the experience between participants. Both headsets are equipped with microphones used to communicate with each other. Voice-changing technology helps participants to remain anonymous. The avatar inside of the men's headsets replicates the women's participants' speech. Whatever the woman speaks, the avatar repeats. Participants are encouraged to communicate with each other. Studies have proven that communication between participants increases loads by 7%. Chantel is surprised at how careful the program helps people to remain anonymous. She continues to read. Women participants are only allowed to use the provided lubrication with their hands. No other body parts or fluids are allowed to be used in the process. Once the specimen is released, women participants use the provided cup to collect the specimen. If the men participant is solo, he is responsible for the care of the specimen by using the provided cup. Chantel stops reading and thinks of an idea on how to create the sign to encourage people to join. She flips through some pages and sees implementations of beta testing involving new technologies and experiments. Some programs and procedures are in use, while others are in the early testing phases. One particular procedure in the testing phase caught Chantel's immediate attention. Scientists have discovered a natural chemical that people produce that can assist with increasing women's fertility rates. An all-natural curated elixir is to be ingested. Once ingested, a chemical is produced naturally within the saliva. The saliva incubates the chemical for up to 12 hours. If properly administered through the vaginal cavity, the chemical can fight the virus causing infertility in women. Positive results have been seen in women. The process has yet to be tried on men. Chantel started to feel a little bothered by what she was reading, so she closed the information packet and found the inspiration to make the flyer. She wrote, "Everyone's experience may be different, but the endings are the same. They're all happy. Earn up to $400 by participating. Rebuild the population."
Today, PJ wasn't his normal productive self during his work hours. The stress of him finding a place was weighing heavy. As he is exiting the building to go home, he notices the signage for the RTP program. He walks through the automatic doors, and after about 5 feet, he stops and turns around. The poster is a chair under a VR headset with the slogan, "Everyone's experience may be different, but the endings are the same. They're all happy. Earn up to $400 by participating. Rebuild the population." He scans the code on the flyer to learn his pathway to the $400. When he saw the pamphlet in the break room, he thought it was only for $200. He learns the company is adding $200 on top of the $200 from the program. He gets in his vehicle and adds up how much money he could make in 4 weeks. He realizes he can make $1,000. Without hesitation, he downloads the app and signs up. He plans to go around lunchtime the next day. PJ starts his vehicle and goes home.
Chantel is very organized and has created an efficient system for the company's human resources department. The company grants access for employees to work remotely if their position allows. Not having the best night's sleep, Chantel didn't feel the motivation to go into the office on a Tuesday or do much work. She rolls over and grabs her phone off the nightstand to inform her bosses she will not be in the office today. As she places her phone back on the nightstand, she sees the book Unethical Ethics. The pamphlet from the RTP program is sticking out of the pages from being used as a bookmark. She sits up on the bed and grabs the pamphlet. She sinks into deep thought. Her mind is focused on the idea of the program and how the procedure is done. The thoughts began after the conversation she had with PJ in the break room a day prior. She knows he needs to find a place and is concerned for his well-being. She has space in her apartment, but it's inappropriate to have a coworker move in. It would also be inappropriate for her to coerce him to participate in the program. After about 20 minutes of indecisiveness, she thinks about the useful information in the book she has been reading and decides to help rebuild the population and give her earnings to PJ. She feels that her faith and understanding of giving is the deciding factor. Chantel downloads the app and registers. Her appointment is at 1 p.m.
It's Tuesday and PJ is emotionally and physically excited. He doesn't know if it is the fact he is getting paid to do what he does every day for free, or if it was his dream last night. He knows he has to save his money making juice, so he decides it's okay to edge a bit as long as he doesn't finish. Somewhere he heard that edging helps the load. He pulls the waistband of his shorts down a few inches and immediately the head pops out. The shaft follows and sticks straight up. Precum is oozing out of the tip, dripping down to the base, adding lubrication to the shaft. You can hear the sound of smacking with each slow stroke. While stroking, he reaches for his phone to add visual stimulation. As soon as he places his hand on his phone, he hears 2 knocks at the door and it begins to open. He abruptly grabs his blanket and throws it over his body. His sister Stacy peeks her head in the doorway and apologizes for barging in. She is speaking softly to not be heard. She informs PJ that she has some errands to run and she will give him the money by the end of the day. She says she doesn't want their mom to know she is helping him out. PJ thanks her. She leaves and closes the door. He removes the blanket and looks down. He sees a string of clear precum attached to the blanket and the head of his now semi-erect penis. Frustrated, he throws the blanket completely off of him, gets out of bed, and gets ready for the work day. PJ arrives at work and enters the building. He goes through security and does his daily routine of going to the break room. He walks past the HR department and notices Chantel isn't in today. He didn't think much of it because she works remotely at least once a week. Normally it's on a Friday, so he assumes she took it earlier in the week. He began to notice the office building was a little less occupied than usual. In the break room he runs into one of his coworkers in the creative department named Steven. PJ asks Steven if he knew why the building was empty. Steven said it's not a holiday and he was sure everyone took paid PTO for the RTP program. PJ nods his head as if everything was making sense. He leaves Steven in the break room and goes to his workstation. He sits down and sees he already has 3 work orders for an empty office. He attends to the work orders. Hours pass and he hears a growl come from his stomach. He looks at his watch and the time is 12:27. He yells "oh shit," immediately stops what he's doing and speed walks through the building to his car. PJ's RTP appointment started at 12 and it takes a little over 20 minutes to get to the facility. Erratically driving through traffic, PJ barely has time to input his code at 12:57. He receives a printout of his room assignment. The printout resembles a receipt and reads as follows. On the top line in large bold font it reads P. Meadows, RTP and an HO in parenthesis. The second line is in bold font, room number 23C. The time 1:07 is printed at the bottom. The purpose of the large bold fonts is to make sure participants aren't confused. Previously there were issues of people entering the wrong room, so they changed the font and created the arrow system to help direct people. People were literally being caught with their pants down. It's 1:07 and PJ is directed to his room.
This episode of Bella Vita Tales of Sidori Island Part 1 is sponsored by...
Here's the plot. A serial killer's last victim survives and is rescued and treated by the best first responder team in the city. The victim is treated at the hospital by a world-renowned doctor who learns the victim has a rare disease. While the police force and FBI are searching for the serial killer, the hospital staff and doctor race to find a cure for the rare disease of the lone survivor of a serial killer. Suddenly, a terrorist plot on the hospital is uncovered and a special ops unit has to intervene before the hospital is destroyed, and the doctor never finds a cure for the lone survivor of the serial killer who the cops need as a witness to help find out who it is. That's their network series plots, not ours. You can clearly tell, over here we ain't them, and they ain't us. Bella Vita Tales of Sidori Island Part 1 isn't just a story, it's an experience. And for those who want to take the potion and go deeper to uncover the secrets behind the scenes, there's only one place to do it, Patreon. When you subscribe, you get ad-free early access to episodes, exclusive character details, and behind-the-scenes content that takes you inside the mind of the creator. Think of it as your all-access pass to the world of Bella Vita. Visit patreon.com/The Felix Network and join us. Because over here, we are something different.
The time is 11:30 and Chantel is deciding on what to wear. This whole situation is new for her. She's having a hard time remembering the last time she had any intimacy with a guy or even touched a penis. She has been celibate for the past 3 years. She is waiting until marriage. She feels this experience is different. She has a purpose and wants to help someone in need. Her high standards inspire her to dress the part to provide excellence during the process. She goes to the closet and pulls out the dress. It's the dress you wear when you are closing a deal. It's the black dress that shows just enough to make anyone say yes before they even know what the question is. Alongside the perfect set of heels, it creates a deadly combination for anyone in eyesight of her ensemble. She plans on stopping by the office afterwards to grab paperwork and give PJ the money. She brings a small jean jacket to cover her spaghetti straps while she's in the office. She makes her way to the facility and is punctual as usual. She collects her receipt with her room assignment and time. She looks at it, folds it, and places it in her jacket pocket. The door opens and she's directed to the prep room. She takes a seat while she waits on the gentleman to get ready. As the training video plays in the background, she stares at her receipt, focusing on her room assignment and participation indicator in parentheses. She looks up as she hears the video explaining how the sensors in the room operate. The data collected from the sensors can determine the level of connection between the two participants. If the two participants have a strong compatibility rating, they will be asked to come back and pair together for bonus compensation. The video explains the definitions of the participation indicators. S for solo, W for watcher, and HO for hands-on. She fans her face with her hand because she's hot from nervousness. She laughs to herself because the HO for hands-on could read HO for short. The light in her waiting area turns green, which indicates the man is ready. She stands up and enters the procedure room. Her heart is beating faster than normal. The echoes from her heels tapping the floor appear to sound loud. Keeping her eyes low to the floor, in her peripherals, she can see the naked bottom half of a man sitting in a chair. She washes her hands and walks to her seat. As she sits down in her chair and looks up to grab her headset, she catches a glimpse of the man's extremely hard penis. She glances back and is surprised to see he is very well groomed. She assumed she was going to have a hairy fat man who smelled funny. She assumed wrong. He actually has a nice lower half of his body, she thought to herself. She adjusts the headset around her braids that are touching her mid-back. She removes her small jacket, turns around and sets it on the back of her chair. She takes a deep breath and grabs the lubrication located on the attached table. As she is pumping the lube into her hands to emulsify, her eyes are locked in on the mystery man's dick. He intermittently grabs it and strokes it to keep it hard. She can see it sometimes jerking up and down without him touching it. She takes one more deep breath as she takes her right lubricated hand, grabs and slides it from the head down to the base of his dick. She follows with the left hand. After a couple of passes from tip to base with each hand, she nervously asks, "Do you like that?" He puts a thumb up with his right hand. All Chantal could think about is the purpose behind her participating in the RTP program. She closes her eyes and begins to add a twisting motion to her right hand. While twisting, her right thumb is massaging his frenum below his penis head, and her left hand is planted at its base. He grabs her left hand and places it under his balls. She stops and removes both hands from his genitals. She grabs 2 more pumps of the lube, rubs her hands together, and places her left hand under his balls and her right hand back to twisting. This time she adds more intensity with the twists and massages. She asks how it feels. He signals another thumb up before quickly clinching the arm rests on the chair. She can hear deep moans from him in her headset. Chantal's mind is so focused on giving PJ the money, but her body's reaction to hearing a stranger moan from her twisting and massaging is perverting her thoughts. Muscle memory is beginning to set in for her. Her legs are squeezed tightly together as she tries to ignore the thoughts of what his long girthy dick would feel like inside of her. The sounds of stirring macaroni and cheese reverberate through the empty room, accompanied by deep breaths and low moans. Pre-cum and lube is running down the back of Chantal's hands as she switches hand positions from shaft to balls periodically. 5 minutes have passed. It feels like time has stopped to Chantal, who hasn't had any sexual contact with anyone in years. She asks him again how it feels, and he responds with his usual thumb up and a deep grunt. She takes the back of her right hand and applies the excess fluids to his dick and uses both hands in a twisting motion on the shaft. She can see his feet wiggling out of the corner of her eyes as she is leaning in between his legs. She knows she can't take much more stimulation without breaking her celibacy vows or the program's rules of allowing only the use of hands. She starts stroking and twisting with more intensity and speed. He begins to gyrate and mildly thrust his hips. He lets out a deep growl as his penile hole enlarges and large amounts of his thick white cum shoots out. Before Chantal can react and grab the cup to collect his specimen, she gets hit. She reaches for the cup as he is still firing his load. She is able to collect a decent portion that didn't land on her. Her cheek, shoulders, cleavage, and dress were hit in the semen attack. Chantel is in shock and awe, while her hand is still attached to the stranger. She can feel his dick jerking subtly in her hand. The excess sperm was leaking out of his hole, down her arm, and dripping onto the floor in front of her. A few drops managed to fall on the exposed parts of her feet due to the style of heel she was wearing. She leans back and releases the stranger's dick, which is beginning to doze off into its resting state of deep sleep. He lets out a deep breath. After her hand is about 6 inches away from his tip, the last bit of his stringy goo detaches. She grabs a few paper towels from the table and wipes her hands, face, dress, and body parts that were shot. She grabs a handful more of paper towels, leans over towards the stranger to clean his penis and thigh. She wipes the head of his penis, and he suddenly jumps due to the sensitivity after coming. He's cleaned up. He sits and waits for her to finish getting ready, so he can receive instruction in his headset to leave. Lastly, she blots the few spots on her right foot and the droplets on the floor. From the time he ejaculated and for her to clean up lasted about 2 minutes. It's silent. She breaks it by saying, "Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day." She takes off her headset and releases it back into the ceiling. As she gets up to grab her jacket off of the back of the chair, she asks herself, "Why did I tell him thank you?" Once again, the clicks of her heels echo the silent room as she leaves.
On the way back to work from his lunch break, PJ stops at Shady Joe's convenience store to grab a
On the
snack.
next episode
Where their
of
motto
Bella
is,
Vita.
here at Shady
In a
Joe's we make enough
civilization
money to
suffering
never
from an
raise our
income and
prices, but
sterility
don't ask
crisis,
us how.
birth rates
While
have
in line,
plummeted to an
PJ's
all-time low.
email notification
With
goes
economic
off.
stability at risk
He looks
due
and
to
sees that his
population
results
decline
are
and a
in from the
shrinking
RTP
workforce,
program.
The government,
Mr.
alongside
Preston
the most
Meadows, your
talented
specimen that you
scientists,
provided
has
was
launched a
tested and
program
has
to
proven
rebuild
to be fertile.
society. To
Welcome to
incentivize
rebuild the population.
participation,
Your
fertile
$100 will
citizens
be
are offered
deposited within
lucrative
the hour.
payouts and
The
corporate
feeling of
bonuses.
excitement as if he made it
Desperate
suddenly
times
comes
call
over
for
him.
desperate measures,
The cashier
and the
calls
program's
next as he is
success
still looking
depends on
down at
willing
his phone.
participants.
PJ places the
Individuals
soda
are
on the
invited to
counter and
come
the
and
cashier
contribute,
asks,
or
will that be
are
all
the
and does he have a
individuals who
rewards
come
number?
the contribution?
He asks for 2 petty
Everyone's
berry flavored
experiences
wraps
may
as
be
he looks
different,
up.
but the
He
endings are
notices
all
the
the
green
same.
contacts in
They're
the
all happy.
cashier's eyes
Together,
accessorizing her
let's
tattooed
rebuild the
cover,
population.
smooth butterscotch complexion. He smiles at her as he reads her name tag that said Dominique. She instructs him to input his rewards number into the card machine. Quickly thinking on his feet, he says he doesn't have one, and can he use hers? Without hesitation, Dominique starts giving PJ her rewards number. As she gets to her 4th number, she notices him typing on his phone. She inquires into what he is doing.
What are you doing?
He looks up smiling as he looks into her eyes and says he thought because he is the 69th customer, she is rewarding him with her number. She laughs and reaches for his phone and finishes inputting her number. His total came to $3.21. PJ reaches for his phone and hands her a $20 bill and tells her to keep the change. He says he will call her as he exits the store. PJ arrives back to work from his lunch break and places his RTP receipt in the drop box for HR as instructed, to receive credit for participating. On the way to his workstation, he sees Chantel coming out of his work area. She stops him and says she was looking for him and assumed he had called out of work like everyone else. When she didn't see him at his station, she was disappointed because he said he needed money and was skipping work. Feeling relieved, PJ told her he had taken a late lunch. He inquires as to why she is there on her day off in her close-the-deal dress. Chantel sends him into his work area. She follows behind and closes the door. She reaches in the breast pocket of her jean jacket and pulls out a check for $100 and gives it to PJ. She says she was able to move some personal money around and wants to help. He says thank you and gives her a professional hug. Somehow at the same time it feels a little more personal because of how long they've known each other. He releases from the hug and compliments how nice she looks and asks where she came from or was going. She said she was running some errands. With a confused look on his face, she quickly adds that she also went out to lunch with an old friend from college. He jokes about the quality of the cuisine being good because she spilled some of it on her dress. Feeling embarrassed, Chantel looks down and her eyes get big. Attempting to wipe the stain, she says it's no problem helping him out. She tells PJ bye and mentions she's going home to clean her dress as she leaves out of his work area. The rest of work flew by for PJ because of his good mood. He just made $300 plus he's getting another $200 from his sister when he gets home. Now it is time for him to clock out and go home. PJ enters the house and his sister is sitting on the couch watching TV. He sits down next to her. They greet each other and ask how each other's day went. PJ talks about work being empty and how he got a girl's number at Shady Joe's. He also brought up Chantel giving him money to help. Stacy says her day was boring running errands. She tells PJ the money for him is in her room on her desk if he wants to go get it. Her room is within eyesight of where they are sitting. Upon getting up, his email notification goes off. He sees it's from the RTP program. Mr. Preston Meadows, we have the results of your compatibility test. You and the participant who assisted you have a 91% compatibility rating. We are offering you and your assisting partner a compatibility bonus. You both have the opportunity to come in twice a week for an additional $100. They have also been notified. If you choose to accept, click the link provided. By enrolling in this program, you agree to provide a weekly specimen for the next 30 days. If you or your assisting partner fails to meet your twice-a-week requirements, your ability to participate in the program will be suspended for 30 days. If your partner declines the compatibility bonus, you may continue the program once a week as usual. If your partner accepts, you both will be notified for scheduling. Before PJ crosses the threshold of Stacy's room, he clicks the link and accepts. He puts his phone back into his pocket and locates the money on Stacy's desk. He walks over, grabs the money and puts it into his back pocket. He turns around and takes 3 steps to walk out of the room. He suddenly stops, turns around and looks back at Stacy's desk. He stares at the black notebook on her desk. It isn't the notebook that has his attention. It's the piece of paper that's partially sticking out underneath the notebook. PJ stands still in the exact spot where he turned around. A large lump starts to build in his throat as his stomach begins to turn. At the top of the mystery paper he sees S. Meadows, RTP, and HO in parenthesis, and underneath 23C. PJ turns and runs to the bathroom next to Stacy's room as vomit is making its way up from his stomach. Stacy, who is concerned about PJ running out her room and into the bathroom, asks if he is okay as he closes the door. She hears him throwing up.
Embarrassed, PJ saw ejaculate on her dress and hugged her. Chantel feels happy she is able to help someone in need. She walks to her office to grab a packet a courier left earlier that morning. She enters her office and a couple of her coworkers notice her attire and ask the occasion. Her assistant, Michelle, joked and said that's how she dresses when she works from home. Linda, who works in accounting and is 6 months from retirement, passes by making a joking accusation of Chantel missing work, accusing her of participating in the RTP program with everyone else who didn't show up for work. Chantel's heart is racing, but her Oscar-worthy performance relinquished all suspicion when she laughs and tells them she had lunch with a friend from college. Michelle asks if she had gotten any in her mouth because it's all over the top of her dress. Linda starts walking away and mumbles to Chantel within ear reach of the 3 ladies in the office. Linda admits to knowing what a love stain looks like.
I know a love stain when
Chantel walks and smiles as Michelle tries to calm the 2 other ladies down from laughing at Linda's comment. She enters her corner office, sits down at her desk, takes a deep breath and whispers to herself, "What the heck?" She feels like she can't leave the office fast enough. She grabs the packet in a yellow envelope sitting on her desk and checks for her car keys in her jacket pocket. She stands up and the email notification on her phone dings. She ignores. All she wants to do is get out of the office, go home, and get out of her clothes. She exits her office with the packet close to her chest in an attempt to not draw any more attention to her once cute, but now crusty dress. She tells the ladies bye and she will see them tomorrow. She stops outside of the HR office and checks the box for the RTP program receipts. She grabs 2 receipts and makes her way out of the building. On her journey to her car, she pays attention to the scarcity of vehicles in the parking lot. Now she's curious who came to work and who came at the RTP facility. She gets to her car and opens the door. She sits down and places the envelope on the seat next to her. In doing so, one of the receipts falls on the passenger side floor. She reaches down to retrieve it. She picks it up and looks at it. It reads P. Meadows, RTP, and HO parenthesis. At this time, all Chantel could think to herself is, wait, what in the world? She sees 23C. A panic starts to onset. She drops the receipt on her passenger seat and starts digging through her jacket pockets. She feels a piece of paper. She slowly pulls the folded piece of paper out of her pocket and opens it slowly, as if it was about to detonate upon opening. It reads, first line, C, green, RTP, HO parenthesis. The second line says 23C. At the bottom of the receipt, 1:07 p.m. Her eyes are still locked on the piece of paper in her hand. She reaches for the receipt on the passenger seat. She picks it up and places them side by side. They are identical, room 23C, HO in parenthesis, time 1:07 p.m. Everything on the receipts is the exact same except for the names, C, Green, and P, Meadows.
On the next episode of Bella Vita.
Retired award-winning actress Joanne St. Clair realized early on that she was a better businesswoman than actress. Being the founder and CEO of one of the largest convenience store companies has people questioning the integrity of her success. After winning Best Supporting Actress in Dan Hoff's award-winning Best Independent Film Nothing Left on the Table, Joanne left the spotlight at 19 and resurfaced as number 3 on Pete's list of the 30 richest people in their 30s by the time she was 30. By age 37, she was a billionaire. A small community of people have been trying to tie her money to corruption and abuse of power. Her rebuttal is, abuse is only abuse if the person being abused calls it abuse, followed by the store's motto, at Shady Joe's we can afford to keep our prices low but don't ask us how.